Number 4 wanted a negative slope of 1/5. So let's go ahead and do this. And let's see, so -2. I think I'll start at -2. And I'll start at -2, +4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, these points I'm picking are just arbitrary. Okay, so if you weren't doing this with me, you could literally pick any point you wanted for your starting point. So since we have m equals -1/5, that means we want y to go down 1. So we're going to go down 1. And we're always going left to right with the x. So y is going down 1, but x is still always going towards the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be 3. That's going to be 3. So we can connect our line. And we get -2, 4 for the first point, and 3, -3 for the second point. So our change in y is -3 minus 4, and our change in x is 3 minus -2. So oh, that's a +3. That's what happened. There we go. So it's +3 minus 4. Okay, so do you see what I just did there? So 3 minus 4 is my change in y, which gives me -1. And 3 minus -2, change, over 5. And that's our change in y over our change in x. So you can see that, reading left to right, the change in y was -1, right? So our change in y, we can label that right here as change in y. And our change in x always goes from left to right, and it went from here. So if you were looking at this line, you could figure out the slope just by looking at the change in y between these 2 points. It went down 1, so it's -1. And the change in x between these 2 points, which was 5. See, that was number 4. Let's do number 5, which was a slope of -1. And I already have this one drawn, so you may want to, I know you may have to pause this a little to keep up. So the first point I did was 3, 6. The second point I did was 4, 5. Okay, and all I did to do a slope of -1 is I went down 1 and then over 1. The slope of -1 is -1 over 1. And then you should definitely stop the video here for a second and see if you can do the y2 minus y1 on your own. But that would be, y2 would be 5 minus 6 over the x would be 4 minus 3. Which gives me -1 over 1. And that is change in y over change in x. And let's mark those. Here's our change in y. Here's our change in x. Y just went from 6 to 5, so just literally went down 1. And x went from 3 to 4, literally just went over 1. Okay, and number 6. I'm going to label that number 5. Number 6, I already have a point here. I used for my first point, -8, 4. So you might want to pause the video and just catch up with that and see if you can get the next point yourself. The next point you know, I would go down 10, I would go down 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and over 1. So that would get me to -7, -6. So let's do our y2s minus y1s. -6 minus 4 over, and then the x's, -7 minus -8. The top becomes -6 minus 4 is -10. The bottom, you're going to change over 1. So that's -10 over 1. That's the change in y over the change in x. And we should mark those. Here's the change in y. And here's the change in x. From 7 to 8. -8 to -7. Okay, so for people who did this on their own, I'd like to just flip through these in a second and show you all the lines. So here was number 1. You should have a line going up. We did that one together. Number 2, you should also have a line that's going up from left to right. Again, you'll have different coordinates than me. Your line may be over here. Number 3, you should have a very steep line that looks like this. And your change in y should be big. Okay, make sure your change in x was just 1. And number 4, make sure your line is going down from left to right. And your change in y should just be 1. And no matter where you drew it, your change in x should be 5. And number 5. Oops, there we go. That's the same one. Number 5 is a line going down again. And your change in y should be 1. Your change in x should be 1. Of course, your change in y is -1 because it's going down. And finally, number 6, you should have a steep line going down. And your change in y should be really big because that's -10. Your change in x should just be one thing. Okay, there will be another video to follow this. Okay, so please watch the second video also.